Welcome to the ChangeMakers Podcast, produced by City Current and powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show shares personal stories and insight from those who are leading by example, fueling positive change and making a difference so we can learn and do the same.
We cover life lessons, business advice, passion, and purpose.
Now here's your host, Jeremy Park.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the ChangeMakers Podcast. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.
Welcome to the ChangeMakers Podcast, produced by City Current and powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. On this episode, we're headed to Franklin, Tennessee. We're talking about history, legacy, volunteerism and board service, community impact, faith, and so much more. We're honored to have with us Alma Lee Alexander McLemore, Executive Director of the African American Heritage Society. Alma Lee, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Oh my goodness, you called me Alma Lee. How did you know to do that? I'm serious because I was born and raised here, and people that know me that were born and raised here in this community, they all call me Alma Lee, but I don't know how you knew. That's amazing.
Just a little bit of, homework on the front end, but let's start because you are a native, which is a rare thing when you talk about Nashville and Franklin, Tennessee, being a native and, tying back to a lot of really cool storylines, which we'll talk about. Let's start with a little bit of your childhood. So talk about growing up and being born and raised in Franklin, Tennessee.
Okay. I have always loved living here. I will not ever move anywhere else. Yes, I was born here at Dr. Charles C. Johnson Hospital. He was an African-American doctor. I was born in his hospital, and I grew up in the city of Franklin. My parents, they lived on Boyd Mill Pike with my other siblings in I think a 3-room house with all of those children. I wasn't born till we got to what we call the, town. We call it in town because if you lived out there, that was kind of like the country those years ago. But I was born in the city. And life was good as far as I'm concerned because I didn't know any better, that it could be any better because it was good. I had good parents. That was a blessing. They taught me right and wrong. They taught me everything I know. They took me to church. I grew up in the church as a young girl. Well, ever since I was born, I went to Cumming Street Church of Christ, and now I'm a member of Folk Street, and I've been in the church ever since. And my mother always told me they took cabs to church. I mean, that's really wanting to go, isn't it? Because people live right next door to the church, and you can shake their hand, the next door neighbors from the church, and they don't go. But that's not, that's their choice. But we grew up in a family of people that were Christians, and they had the morals and the ethics to teach us to be good children, and that when you teach people to be good children, then you're going to become good adults. And they served. My mother always cared about people. My father, years ago, ministers got treated out. The members of the church would invite them to their homes. Nowadays, people have to go out to eat. Even ourselves, our church members, we all go out to eat together and everything. But it used to be years ago that people invited the ministers and their families to their homes. I don't know what has happened. We need to start that back because, that's a hard job. And to be able to go to someone's home and then prepare a wonderful home-cooked meal for you, as opposed to going to all of the restaurants on Sunday, they are packed with people. But that's what my parents did. They always cared about other people. They shared. So I got that spirit of giving and service from the way I grew up.
Yeah.
So,
And I carry that into like, kind of like you're talking about, when you talk about being able to serve dinner in the house, in the home, inviting the pastor to come over. What's another kind of fun family tradition or memory when you look back at some of the, kind of the core foundational elements? What's another tradition that really stands out to you for you and your family?
well, we always got together all the time. We got together on Sundays. We had dinners, and even recently, when we got into football and everything, we watched the sports together. My parents they weren't into football. That wasn't on our radar. But my children, when they grew up, they played sports. And then my husband, we watched NFL, and we were rivals with different teams. Three of us were Cowboys and three were Steelers fans, and it was awesome. And then all of my siblings, we'd get together for holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, weekends. We all just got together and prepared meals. There was always food. Food just attracts people. There was always food. And we just had a lot of fun growing up. When I was in Short Court, I, had a lot of neighborhood friends, and then even friends on West Main Street. One of my dear friends was, I'm African-American. She was white, and we'd play together. We were up until like 12 years old. Then I started babysitting at 12 years old. But during that time and before then, I was at Cummings Street, and I grew up over there with my brothers and sisters. And I remember them finding those bullets and going to the car, taking those to the Carter House. We didn't even have any idea what the Carter House really meant, and didn't think about it until, years later for me. But my siblings, they never went to the Carter House. I'm the last one. I'm the matriarch of the family. I had 6 other siblings. But now I'm involved in the history and the significance of telling the fuller story. But growing up, that was not on our radar. We were trying to survive. We didn't miss meals. Our parents made sure we had meals. And I just feel so grateful to them. I saw a picture of my younger brother, first grade picture someone sent me. And I guess the kids always try to look their best on picture day. And Jeremy, I was so moved when I got that picture sent to me. My brother is since passed, but he was so happy and smiling and looked like he had on a brand new shirt. And for him to have a brand new shirt on, that had to be a really special thing that my mother and father went out and got for him to have for picture day. So those little things, and this just happened last week. So you can imagine my joy in seeing that. And he was really, really smiling, really big. My siblings that lived on Boyd Mill told me about all the fun they had, even though my dad and mom were sharecropping and they lived in this house. They had all the food they needed, vegetables and fruits. And they told me they'd be excited. They say, we had all kinds of pear trees, big old peaches. They would do this to me. Big old peaches and pears and plums and blackberries and all the vegetables. We had good food, probably better than I'm eating now, because we have choices now, but we don't make all those good choices many times. But yeah, I had a good time growing up here in Franklin, Tennessee. I had Black and white friends during school. I went to an all Black school 1st through 8th grade, and then 9th and 10th I went to Natchez High School, and then 11th the schools were integrated, and I went to Franklin High School and graduated there. So all during my life here, it's been good. I have no complaints. I had the main foundation because my parents had God and had the church. So when you have the that type of atmosphere and environment when you grow up, it's kind of hard to go wrong. So that's a blessing.
Absolutely. When you transitioned to Franklin High School, and as you mentioned, you had friends, Black and white. And so when you transitioned over, what's something that kind of stands out to you as an experience that, whether it's a friendship formed, what was that like kind of integrating in with Franklin High School and then being a graduate, obviously 1969?
Well, it wasn't really that hard for me. But some of my classmates will tell a different story. And it's unfortunate that everybody didn't have the same experiences, but my experience wasn't that bad, except there's one thing. When I graduated, I went from Natchez to Franklin High School, and I was in the top 25% of my class. And I felt like if I had known, or if a guidance counselor had talked to me and said, you can do this, you can apply for a scholarship or whatever. Well, I didn't have that educational background through my parents because they did not graduate from college or high school. So that wasn't something that was instilled and say, you must get your education, you must go to college. Well, first of all, they had no money and they didn't understand the process of how I could possibly get a scholarship. But I think about that and I think about how I would have probably had an opportunity. But I did start working after I graduated, and then I went to drawings for a minute. And I got a call from someone. I started working at H.G. Hill's grocery store right behind where I lived. And one Saturday, someone came to my house and was talking to me about going to school. And I got a loan from Third National Bank, my own personal loan from Third National Bank to pay to go to drawings. So those are the kind of things that you do. But I didn't really think about the next steps of what I needed to do on my own to get that done. But I am so blessed. I have not skipped a beat. Yes, I admire people. I love the fact that we have all opportunities now to get education. And there are money barriers still for so many people. I have grandsons now that are in college, and it is tough. But the opportunities are more and more now, and people are more aware, I think, than I was at that time. But I've been so blessed to just have the knowledge and to learn things on my own and to get out there in the community and to be around people that are smart so that I can, if you're in a good environment, you're going to be okay. And I am okay. I'm telling you, I am okay.
We'll talk about the community service because there's so many amazing storylines around your community service and volunteerism, but you had 30 years and you retired from the Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation. Share a little bit of that when you talk about just the legacy and, like you said, kind of jumping in and, making it an amazing experience. Talk about your 38 years.
Well, when I was working at H.G. Hills, one of my one of my teachers called and asked me if I would be interested in a job that to go apply for a job. And they may have been looking for African Americans. I don't know, but I will say that truthfully, I scored the highest score that year. So I can give myself credit for that. They may have been looking for an African American person to hire, but I got there and I applied for the job and I got it, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. It allowed me to meet so many people in the community because everybody has to have electricity. So working in customer service, engineering, accounting, I worked all over the place. So I met so many people. There were a couple of experiences where when I got the job, one gentleman came in and he said, I never had no dealings with no blank now, and I'm not about to start now. And that was like stunning. And I was young. That was a shocker. So we have faced different adversity situations and things like that, but you just keep on moving. You just let it roll off like water on a duck's back and say, I'm bigger than that. I can do this. We're created equally through God. And even though somebody else might think they may be better, they're not, because the little dust that God created, he started out with one man and then he created a woman. So we all came from that. So when people start thinking they're better than somebody else, they better get over it, because they're not, because we all came from the same dust. And, we go back to dust. So if people don't believe that, I don't even understand that. But yeah, we're good. And we're just blessed to have worked at Middle Tennessee Electric, and then meeting all the people there, and then people seeing the service that I also performed at schools. When my kids were growing up, I would always be part of their life at school and involved with the PTA, PTO. And one of the principal at Franklin High School is the first one that told someone about me And so it started from there. He told them that I would be really, really good to work with Habitat for Humanity. That was one. But then the another one was when I was invited to be in charge of the Williamson County Emergency Relief Fund. And there are so many, Jeremy, the affordable housing, you know about that. You hear about it every day. Well, I've been on grassroots committees for that effort for years, and it's an ongoing thing. We're still trying. The Community Housing Partnership, I was there with grassroots effort. The Habitat, I was a charter member, and there were several others that we just got it started, and some of them, many of them are still going. But I won't take credit. I was just a player in the game. I was just part of the efforts, and there have been so many things in the community that have been created and generated for the overall good of the community. And I just love the efforts and the opportunities that people have in this community to make a difference. And we can do this. There are so many people that can make a difference that don't realize. They're just like me. I'm not anybody special. The main thing, Jeremy, I know this for a fact. This is where I get my strength. I love God. And I know he loves me, so I love myself, and that means I can love everybody else. So some people get hung up because if they don't feel good about who they are, they're not going to serve. They feel intimidated. So if you go somewhere knowing that you are loved and you're going to be okay, and then you exuberate that love, you're going to be fine.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important storyline in terms of you and your service and faith. Give us an idea, because when you talk about volunteerism, I think volunteerism is the thing that really brings the community together. It crosses over different races, religions, socioeconomic levels. It really combats polarization. When you look at why volunteerism is so needed, it's the physical service to lift, but it's also to bring our community together. When you started getting involved, what did it do for you? Kind of like, that intrinsic value in terms of bringing together the different individuals and realizing, just like you're saying, we're actually way more alike. And so when you talk about some of the things like the gentleman said to you, unfortunately, how did that kind of change your perspective around, okay, I can be a change maker, but I also can use this as a tool to bring our community together and in a powerful, positive way, really make a difference as a whole. So talk about kind of what you started to see as a volunteer that really did change kind of the way you view yourself and your community.
Well, barriers were broken. I was able to interact with people I hadn't interacted with before. My parents worked for white people. They made a living, and we had food on our tables because they did. But I cannot say, well, I am not going to like white people because my parents worked for them and they didn't treat us right and all of this stuff. Well, I have to learn that we have to work together, because if you follow the Bible principles, we have to be united. We have to live in a community. The word unity is in community. So that's what we have to do. And we have to break the color barriers, the racial barriers, all of the barriers that separate us and keep us from being the best that we could be in this community. Because I'm telling you, a strand of three cords is not easily broken. I mean, it takes more than one person. It really does take a village. And I see it each and every day. And I can look at you, I can look at my brother, I can look at whoever they are, and I can love you for who you are. And I can say, would you join me on us doing something good for the good of the community and for the good of the country and the world? So that attitude. And then sometimes I sort of get puzzled and understanding, because all of my family were not in the community like me. Everybody's not the same. You can live in the same household and have the same parents, but then you've got your own personalities. And I am so glad God made me who I am. I am so glad that he made me be able to say that I love you and mean it. Even if you mistreat me, I'm so glad that I can still do that. That really makes me happy.
I think it's also, too, it's something that that you're making a difference for all the right reasons, and that becomes power, right? Like that becomes your source, where you're not then having to worry about what others say because you know your focus, your due north, your North Star, your higher purpose. And I think obviously the faith is the foundation, but when you know your purpose and you're, fighting for that, you're able to push the noise aside. And I think it also too, when you're out there living it and doing it, that attracts good energy, that attracts others who want to do the same. And so I think all the way around, these are great, important lessons just in life and obviously business and community too. Carry that into the African American Heritage Society. So let's start with a little bit about the organization, and then we'll talk obviously all about the effort. So give us some perspective on the African American Heritage Society.
Okay. Well, I got involved about 2000, and Miss Mary Mills, she passed away recently, but she's an icon in Williamson County. She called me and invited me to be a part of the board, and I got involved, and I'm just not going to get on the board just to be on the board. So I got actively involved, and I'm still involved now. And it's just an amazing organization that was founded by 3 retired school teachers that were retired, and then 1 historian, Miss Thelma Battle, and historian Rick Warwick of Williamson County, and Mary Pierce, who was the director of the Heritage Foundation. So all of the historic treasures and all of the different things were being told about the Civil War and the Battle of Franklin and many, many historic places in Franklin that were treasures were being shared and being researched. If it was, it wasn't African-American history that was being told. So they got together and said, we got to fix this. And they worked really, really hard, and they fixed it. They took care of it, and we had a charter organization formed in 1997 by these people. There were lots and lots and lots of people in the community, Jeremy, who supported. It wasn't just them, but they're the ones that founded it. They're the ones who went to the state, who went through all of the hard work and the paperwork and all the things you have to do to form a nonprofit. They had little things like fish fries, and they had bake sales and all this stuff. Can you imagine starting off? And if you're retired, I mean, you're just supposed to be enjoying yourself, going on trips, taking vacations. And they do all this hard work to start an organization. That's why I work so hard, because I want to be able to keep this organization sustainable and bring other people in, which we've done. We've got wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people that volunteer. No man is an island again. There's we just had a recent Super Bowl. I'm telling you, Holmes is awesome, but there's no way that he would be out on that field by himself and win that Super Bowl, can he? We gotta have other people. We gotta have people around us, surrounding us, that really care about the mission and the purpose. And that's what we do with the organization. We've got some wonderful volunteers now. We've got wonderful sponsors. And because of these people that founded it, we have the McLemore House Museum. Harvey McLemore was a formerly enslaved person in Williamson County who built his home in 1880. And the family lived in the home for 117 years before it got in such bad and deplorable condition that it had to be condemned. And that's when Habitat for Humanity, I was on the board then, they bought the property. They were going to tear it down and build a Habitat home, which is a good effort as well. But when we found out that it was historic, we had to save that home. And Habitat was so gracious to allow the Heritage Foundation to purchase it. And they even helped. They purchased a roof, put a roof on the house, and they also built a house behind the McLemore house. So just collaborative efforts. They got it. They let us have it. Actually, the Heritage Foundation is who bought it. They had the money. So they bought it and deeded it to us for $1. But it still needed to be restored. So these teachers went to the bank and signed their homes, a mortgage. They signed off on their homes to get a loan to renovate that house. Now that's saying something, isn't it? That's care and concern and love for your community and love for a purpose.
To me, I mean, that like when you tell kind of these stories, just the personal dedication and sacrifice to be able to make this happen, I think, with the higher purpose of community and legacy and knowledge, obviously, is a really important storyline.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the Mayor Williams house. That was a recently acquired property in 2021. And I've probably told you that story before. Had we acquired that property when I talked to you last?
I think so, because what you're referring to, we've had you on the TV and radio shows, kind of sharing some of these storylines. This is our chance to dive in deeper, but go ahead and give a little bit of a backstory on it, just because I think we briefly mentioned it, but not necessarily like in depth.
Okay. Well, the McLemore house is a success. We just have to have regular open hours. We're open by appointment only right now. Then we'll start back in April. And we now have the Mill Williams house. That was also owned by a formerly enslaved person who actually sold it to another prominent figure in Franklin, A.N.C. Williams, his family. If you Google A.N.C. Williams, he was one of the first African-American merchants in downtown Franklin, and had a restaurant, a business and a general store there even before the Emancipation Proclamation. That is profound. So his family, his son, Tom Williams, bought this property that's at 264 Natchez that we are now working on. We purchased the property November 12th, 2021. We closed on it. The year before that, the property went up for sale. The owner actually was a member of my class, Cassandra Taylor, and she had gotten offers on the property, but she agreed to let us sign a purchase agreement to purchase the property a year later. So we had a year to buy the property, and we had no money. We had the McLemore house, but we weren't in the real estate business. We're not trying to go around buying. We don't have the money to do that. But there are several people in the community that wanted this house and knew how important it was. There were developers that wanted to buy it and build 2 homes there. It was zoned for 2 homes. Gentrification has occurred in this area. Natchez Street is one of 2 of the oldest neighborhoods that were established after the Civil War. So the Bella Franklin story continues when you go right around the corner from the Carter House, and you have this established African-American neighborhood that the Carter family that were in the basement of the Carter House during the Civil War, their families were in that neighborhood. And one of the most recent things that occurred, the oldest member passed away a few months ago. And we honored her at our black tie, Jeremy, because I honored her posthumously. We honored her family because she was blind, and she was, I think, 83 years old, but she was at home calling our local radio station every day, giving news, talking about birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, church events. She was serving from her house as a blind descendant of the Carter family. Is that not profound? So she was honored at our black tie on February the 3rd. So those kind of things, you cannot make up the significance of how important these stories are. And that's why we love continuing to share those. But anyway, back to the Mayor Williams house, and I jumped from that, but it's the same neighborhood. It's the Natchez Street neighborhood that's very, very significant to the history of African Americans in Williamson County. But we're working on that house right now, and we didn't have the money, and we had the contract, and we said we would have it in 6 months. That was my thing as the president. I said, we're going to have it in 6 months. But we were blessed to get the money in a month and a half.
That's impressive.
From May 1st.
It also shows like your leadership, but your connection to community, doing the right thing for all the right reasons, and and the higher purpose, right? And I think turning that into why, and I hate to say that we have to even have this conversation, but why is this so important? So when you look at preserving the history, the legacy, these buildings, like for the future generations, why is this so important, not only to you personally, but to the community?
Well, can I go back just for a second? Because I don't know how much I told you before, but this is so significant. We had that year to buy that property, but when we said that we were going to do it in 6 months, I got a call on Juneteenth, Jeremy, on Juneteenth, that we were going to get $500,000. But then when I went to talk to the person that was going to donate, the donor, she gave us $1 million. So to me, prayer is powerful. Belief is powerful. People thought it was a pie in the sky. That little organization that don't have staff, don't have anything, don't have any money, how are they going to do this? They can't raise that money. And I'm sure developers were just sitting, waiting to, to say, oh, we got that property, because they're not going to raise that $1 million, because it was $699,000. But that I had to go back to that, because that's belief and faith. And people that don't believe, I'm sorry for them, but we're going to continue to believe, and we're going to have that house at 264 Natchez. It's going to be a heritage and cultural center for the community in one of the most prominent African-American districts in the community. And the place where the McLemore house is the Hard Bargain neighborhood. It's the same thing. It was established after the Civil War. But it is important that we continue to share this, and for the young people to see and to know that there's nothing you can do, but you need to know your history. You need to know the heritage. We need to know and to continue to tell the stories, because they matter. And we don't want to do this. We don't want to repeat history. We don't want to. And some of the things, Jeremy, that we're sharing, people don't like to hear a lot of those things, but it's important because we want to make sure that we do the right thing. And it's important, the history is.
Give me one more, because you serve on a lot of boards. You've served on a lot of boards. You do a ton of volunteering. I mean, just like we're talking about, give me one other one that stands out to you and puts a smile on your face with, a different nonprofit serving. What's another one that puts a smile on your face for the impact and your ability to serve and make a difference? Yeah, well, the Habitat for Humanity was just amazing. I was on that board for 20-something years. And to be able to have a home, provide a home for someone who otherwise would have thought that they couldn't do it, that was the best thing for me. And I had a family of my own. I was married. I had children that had activities after school, and they had homework, and I had to take care of feeding. I was a married person, but I was still able to go to the homes after I got off from work and talk to families, potential families, and give them hope. And they will tell you today that they remember that and they're grateful. And to see their smiles when they get their home and get the keys, that's a biggie. And also Recovery Court, when I was involved with the 21st District Recovery Court. And that is also something that is really dear to my heart, because when you see people that have addictions, we're all addicted. I like to eat. I wish I could stop eating sweets. I love them, but I don't judge people because they have that. And if we're able to help them, and they're able to get out of that mode and be able to change their lives and change their families' lives, that's another one. But there are so many that are wonderful, wonderful. I could talk all day about the things that I've been involved in, and I continue to enjoy all of the things that are done in this community for everybody. For so many people that are needy, because we live in one of the wealthiest places in Williamson County. People think it's like the land flowing with milk and honey, but there are a lot of people who don't have no milk and no honey. Normally, I would save this for later in terms of a quote that inspires you, but I know this one inspires you, and I want you to kind of elaborate on it because I think it ties into what we're talking about. And The quote is, "Be careful how you live. You may be the only Bible that some person ever reads." Talk about how that inspires you, because I think everything you're talking about in terms of doing the right things, treating people, putting the good energy in, like you mentioned the homeowner, remembering how you made them feel, like all of that ties into this higher purpose. So talk about kind of how that permeates your life and your walk. Well, I think about that all the time, because people do come to me and say, I saw your smile a mile away. And that almost makes me tearful, because they
they see me smiling from far away and they come up and say hi. That is just, and if you're smiling from within. It's not a fakey smile. It's the real deal. And if I guess people would have different emotions if they frown, but if you smile, you're happy. So when people say that, and then you're doing things not for show, like right now I'm talking to you, this is not in my wheelhouse. This is not my preference. But if I can make a difference, if I can tell somebody, it's so much easier to love than to hate. It's so much easier to go and pick up some things and take to somebody as it is to, I can go shopping and spend money on me, but I'd like to do something for somebody else. I feel good about that. And to me, that's what the Bible speaks about. We have to love ourselves and take care of ourselves, but at the same time, we can do so much good in the community. And people are looking at us each and every day. And if we could proclaim to be somebody, I don't have to put a sign out in front of me, Jeremy, and say, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. If I am not living the life, if I'm not walking the walk, I can talk the talk all day long. And I don't have to tell you anything about who I am. You need to see it. You need to see the light. The Bible talks about a light that sitteth up on a hill cannot be hid. And I pray that each day that, Lord, let me be a light. Let me be a light to somebody. Let me make a difference to them. Let me make them feel better. If they're sad, let me make them happy. If they're troubled, let me make them feel less trouble. Let me be or do something that can make them feel better at that moment. And every moment is a moment. When we get up every morning and we meet people, that's an opportunity. Am I right? And I just feel like I study and I read inspirational stuff. And I feel like that if some people don't, if they look at you and they may ask you a question, or they may tell you, you know what, thank you for saying something to me. You saved my life. I will tell you this seriously, since you asked me that question. I was at my church one day and got out of my car at the parking lot and I saw this young man and I went over to him and said hi to him and everything. And he looked a little troubled and I said, I told him who I was. And I said, well, let me get your picture. Because I got this little journal thing that I do. I don't pass it. I mean, I don't get on Facebook and show all these pictures. But like if I meet somebody, I'll say, well, let me get your picture. And my name is blah, blah, blah. And so later on, a few months later, he came to church and he said, you saved me that day. He said, you don't know what I was about to do. I am serious. He said that to me. So we never know. He was a stranger. I didn't know him, but I wanted him to feel valuable because we can walk down the street with the man that may have a little alcohol or whatever, but then we can go to the White House and we can interact with everybody. We don't have to have little I's and big U's and all this. So that's my thing. That's what I live by that, caring for everybody, not looking down on other people and not looking up to people. I'll look up to God. I'm not going to look up to all these people that everybody, they can get all the likes in the world, and I don't have to. I do have a problem with people admonishing everybody over God, and that's their business. I'm sorry. I'm really getting in other people's lives now. But when you esteem everybody and you got to have everything they have and you think that they hung the moon but you don't even know you don't know about anything about God. It baffles me, but that's just me. And I love people. I'm not going to judge them, but I just think that if we could all give God the glory, then we would be really, really in better shape than we are now in our country, because we've got some things we have to keep working on. But guess who it starts with? The girl in the mirror. It starts with me. I can't judge Jeremy. If I don't have my act in order, I sure can't judge you and tell you how to live. So it starts with me each morning.
We'll carry that into, especially for our youth, because just like you're talking about, people are dealing with a lot. And when you talk about, finding themselves, looking yourself in the mirror, finding the confidence, the higher purpose, not judging people and knowing yourself better, finding happiness, being able to smile. What advice would you give, especially for our youth, but what advice would you give for them to live a more meaningful and impactful life?
Just to love themselves and to know that they matter. If they just only know that they matter, they don't have to look at their fellow classmate or fellow person. If they got a little bit more money or live in a more finer home or more popular, if they could just know that they matter individually, we wouldn't have a lot of the things that we have now. And then, social media makes it a lot worse because the kids look and they see, well, my parents are doing this and my parents are doing it. And they won't even talk about their parents because they have like a level of shame. But you gotta love yourself. That's the answer. But how do we get people except for to just encourage them, keep talking and say, love yourself. And I was thinking the other day, when we meet people, Jeremy, we meet new people and people come to you and they say, what do you do? Generally, right? And I was telling somebody, the next time somebody comes to me and say, what do you do? What do you do? I'm going to say, I love people. That's kind of different, isn't it?
It is short, sweet, simple, and yet powerful. It's what you do. I love people.
It's very powerful. It's very. Yes, we have ambitions and we have goals and we have all of these things that make our life wholesome. But that one little thing that we can do, if we are able and mentally strong, just love and just feel good about who you are. That's the big thing. And I practice it and try to tell young people and try to encourage young people as well. Because like I said, I've said before, my parents, they passed away. They didn't own a car. They didn't own a home. And I am fine. I am so blessed right now. And I have a wonderful family of relatives, and we're just blessed. So I just want to just send the message out there to just love your neighbor. And yes, I am my brother's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. And if we realize that and remember the greatest commandment of all is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. That's it, But all of these things stem from in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's switch over. We'll do a lightning round to kind of wrap up. So
Okay.
Short questions, short answers, just having some fun, getting to know you better. What do you like to do to relax?
I like to go to the movies. I like to read. I like to travel. I'm way behind on traveling. I may have mentioned that before. I am way behind. I used to travel a lot, and then I got really, really, really involved with the African American Heritage Society. I will get back to that point if God allows that. I love going on cruises. I love taking trips. I love interacting with people. I love meeting new people and hanging out with friends and being with my family. Church, of course. Church for God, family, church, community, in that order. God, family, church, community.
So when you have visitors come to Franklin, come to your area, where do you like to take them? So give us some of your go-to spots.
The place just closed up, and I love Izzy's. It just closed up, and it was a nice little place. And I will tell them about the different places. We have the African American Heritage Society, the museum, and then we have the Tucson Overture Cemetery, and there are a lot of African American spots that they can go to. We would love to have a soul food restaurant here, because we've had people come and they say, well, where's a good place to have where's a good place to eat with soul food restaurant? And we're hoping that that'll happen one day. But there's so many places in Franklin. I'm actually behind. I live very close to the factory. So the factory in Franklin is undergoing a lot of renovation. And it is becoming the hangout spot. It is so many people over there. And they have Hattie B's chicken now. So I tell people about that. and then the theaters, we got the Franklin Theater, we've got the theater in Cool Springs, so based on the things that I like to do, and I don't do a lot of Nashville unless I may go to a play every now and then, but I don't do a lot of things in Nashville anymore because I don't even know how to drive around in Nashville. I'm just going to be honest. It's changed so much, but it's good. It's all good.
You mentioned the cruises, but when you're going out of the area, where do you like to visit? So it can be, all over the U.S. or all over the world. What are some go-to favorite vacation spots?
Well, I was going to Hawaii when COVID hit, and we had to cancel, and I had to get my money back. And then I had surgery. They went on trips that I didn't get to go on, and I want to be able to go. The group that I would like to travel with, they've been to Italy, they've been to Greece, they've been to lots of places internationally that I haven't been. And they go in groups and they have a ball. So I want to get to that. But since I had the shoulder surgeries, I wasn't able to. So I enjoyed that. And then going, of course, we've been to some of the places many, many times, like Florida and DC. And I went to New York once, and it was so many people. And I'm thinking, why am I hanging out on this subway at 1:00 in the morning? This is scary because I've seen too many movies, And I like the Broadway plays. That was fun. So I just like having a good time, and I like just hanging with friends. But I don't have a lot of friends that are not from this area that come in to visit. I do not.
What's a recent movie or TV show? What's something you've watched recently on TV?
The movie I watched, I went to see The Color Purple, and that was a good movie that I watched. And then recently on TV, let me think. I like watching the America's Got Talent. I like to see that in American Idol. And oh, well, you don't know this side of me. Oh, my goodness. Why, how in the world did I leave it out? Sports. I love football. And I'm into basketball now, but I love football because growing up, my brother was a Dallas Cowboy fan. And then when I married, my husband was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and my oldest son. My youngest son, my brother, and I were Cowboy fans. So we had a good, wonderful rival. And I think I'm one of 5 people in Franklin, Tennessee that like the Cowboys. I've got the little cowboy thing on my keychain, and if somebody sees it, they either like, oh, you like the Cowboys, or like, I may find a few that like the Cowboys, but I will always be a Cowboy fan. I'm a Titan fan as well. But if the Cowboys and the Titans were playing each other in the Super Bowl, I would be for the Cowboys. And I know everybody that's going to hear this, they won't like me anymore. They may have liked me from the beginning, but I'm just going to be honest. If you don't like me because I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm sorry.
Hey, I like you because you're a Cowboys fan. So I grew up in, Dallas-Fort Worth area. We used to go to all the Cowboys games, and that's something that, very similar. Like when you look at like my bond with my father and like for my younger brother, we grew up watching all the Cowboys games, and that was a special moment in memory for us, going to the games, watching the games, every single one. And it's like, I'm with you on that. I'm a Cowboys fan as well. So, so you got me.
Yeah, I like, and I actually play fantasy football, and I have to tell this too. My son has a barbershop in Franklin, and so I'm a member of a fantasy league, and so my team name is Terminator. So when I first got involved in the fantasy football thing, I was winning. I was beating all these people, and these guys come in. Who is this Terminator? He said, y'all let my mama beat y'all.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
You know what you're doing.
Yeah. I tell you, it was it's a lot of fun. I love it. I love the football, and basketball is okay. I got into it when Steph Curry got involved. I'd hear them talk about the teams, and I would get the names mixed up, and my kid, they would laugh at me because I was calling Draymond Green and all of this stuff. But we're into basketball. I like college basketball, college football, and baseball. My kids played all those sports, so I was, into those. But yeah, I am into the NFL.
I love it. Well, give me we talked about one of them, but give me a quote that inspires you. And you don't have to get it verbatim, but what's a quote or a saying that inspires you?
Saying, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's one that I think about. And then I put some in my little journal thing every day, Jeremy, and then I'll put a little song in there and a little scripture. And I like the one that Martin Luther King always said, that I choose love because hate is too great a burden to bear. I like that one so well. And I have some of my own that I think about, but at this moment, I can't think of the best one. I'll have to work on that.
Well, you've already given me two, so that's good.
Yeah.
You're creating your legacy every single day. And obviously, you still got many, 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 many years to go. But when you look at all you've done already, being able to make such a huge difference in the lives of so many others and pouring into the community in so many different ways, what do you hope that your legacy is for you personally, for your family, for the organizations you've had a chance to serve? What do you hope your legacy is?
Well, I'm hoping that people will learn. I hope that in our community and beyond, that people will just learn to love one another. And I can continue to be an example. I want to be an example. If somebody comes to me and talks about something in a negative light, I want to be able to tell them to take the high road, and also, and it's going to be okay. We're going to solve this. It's all right. Always, always, always. I'm like Michelle Obama, take the high road. And I believe that. I believe it even before she said it. I'm in totally agreement with her. And sometimes people think that if you take the high road, you're soft. I'm not soft. I may appear to some people, but I am only trying to do what, I'm supposed to do, because like people said, even my son said this, he said, people always worry about living their best life, but what about your next life? And a lot of people don't believe in it, believe that anyway, but yes, we can live our best lives, but we still have to learn to really, really love one another. And that's my thing. I want to be able for people to know that I tried really hard each and every day, doing things that they don't know about behind the scenes. People have no idea, really. And it's okay. It's okay. But if there can be a print to show something that was done to make life better in this community, because Miss Mary Mills and all of the founders, Miss Thelma Battle, Azealia Harris, Louise Patton, Mary Pierce, Rick Warwick, they were the ones that actually built the foundation. And I'm standing on their shoulders. They're the cornerstone. And through the grace of God, we're still thriving and doing well. But when I think about what they did, that makes me continue to want to work harder, because I'm working, and then somebody else is going to look and say, maybe, Miss Alma may have struggled, but can do the same thing, because this legacy, this historic preservation, sharing African-American stories and helping people to get homes and helping people to have a better life and encouraging people. That's what I want to be known for.
Where do we go to carry this conversation forward? Where do we go to follow you? Where do we go to learn more about the African American Heritage Society? So website, social media, where would you direct us to go to learn more and get involved?
The house that we're working on right now, the 264 Natchez, oh my goodness, Jeremy, it is unbelievable. The surprises that we have found, because the house is so old. We really, really, really would love donations, love. And we are just finding so many things that it's so old, you just don't know what you're going to find behind the walls and the issues. And we have to be in compliance with the city. We want this place to be safe. We want people to come and be able to see something that belonged to the property was Civil War battlefield property as well. So it's a big deal. So we need some big monies to take care of this big deal. But anyway, the website is aahswc.org. And if you want to make donations, you can make them to the African American Heritage Society, P.O. Box 1053, Franklin, Tennessee, 37065.
And I hope that, just like you're saying, that people reach out, make the donations, get involved. I think the work you're doing obviously is monumentally important. And this is an easy ask for others, all around the world who follow the podcast, listen to the podcast, watch the video, for them to get involved. And especially after hearing your personal story and, all the impact points, I think it's really tremendously important. So Alma Lee, thank you for all you do. Thank you for being a change maker. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Can I tell you something funny? Sometimes they ask, people ask different questions and say, what is one of the most unusual things you ever did? Did I tell you that one time I put a boa constrictor around my neck?
And you're still alive to tell about it.
Yes. You probably weren't born. You probably never heard of the guy, Jake the Snake. It was a wrestler. He was a wrestler, and he would wrestle, and he'd have this boa constrictor, whatever. Well, one day I was at work at Middle Tennessee Electric, and Walmart was featuring Jake the Snake. And I went up there, and I let him put that boa constrictor around my neck. And then what's so crazy, a friend of mine walked through the door, and I made her I said, come on over here and do this. And right now she's wondering how in the world she did it. And her eyes was like big as I don't know what. She was scared to death. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. I want to tell you that one unusual, crazy thing that I did in my life. And that was, and I'm still alive. I'm still alive to tell it.
I love it. Well, see, that's the whole thing, though, is that this gives people a glimpse into your world. And it also, too, becomes a chance to have a lot more deeper conversations on stories just like that. So,
oh, I have a lot of them. I have a lot of them, I tell you. But I never think about, I just share. I never think about a legacy really or any of that. I just do. And I never thought that that this would be happening. I never thought of any of this. We're just saving places that matter. And we're trying to continue to save lives and bring people to Christ and all of these things. And you never think about being in any limelight. You just don't.
Well, but that's what makes you a change maker. So, Alma Lee Alexander McLemore, thank you for being a change maker. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the ChangeMakers podcast. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.
Thank you for listening to the ChangeMakers podcast, produced by City Current and powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
To learn more, to listen to past episodes, and to share your stories of other changemakers who are making a difference, visit citycurrent.com or call 901-321-1020.
Follow the conversation online using the handle @CityCurrent or the hashtag #PowerTheGood.